Hello, everyone. My name is Melina, and this is,
Jordan.
and we are the board certified.
BAes.
As I was looking at you, my eyes started twitching. Did you see that?
No.
Oh, okay, good.
Is it because I was in your eyes?
Yes.
You saw me and was like,
Stressed.
wow. That was the opposite
Anyway.
way of there I thought that was going to go, but behind the scenes of the BAes.
Anyways, how are you doing today?
Wonderful. Fantastic.
Good.
Amazing.
Good.
How are you doing today?
Good. I'm a little hungry. So I've been starting to think about what I want to eat for dinner.
That makes sense.
But that's about it. Anyways, today we are talking about IOA.
Interobserver Agreements.
So yeah.
Yes, we are.
Do you want me to take this one?
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Okay.
What is IOA?
Okay, so I'm gonna say it and then you can like make sure it sounds clinical.
What? It's going to sound clinical when you say it.
Okay. So IOA, Interobserver Agreement. Okay. 2 or more independent people are observing an occurrence and recording their data of the occurrence or the behavior. And then they're comparing their data to ensure that everyone is on the same page and that it's all correct. Okay, now you take it and you make it sound more clinical.
That's exactly it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Woo, so that's Interobserver Agreement. Thank you guys for tuning in. Just kidding. Okay, so with that being said, what is the importance of it?
The importance of Interobserver Agreement is to ensure that there is believability in the data.
Okay.
Right, and so that the data is reliable. That's what that means. Without it, we can succumb to the observer bias. Right, so which is when we believe what we're recording is the one true and only way to record data. And it's not that people do that intentionally, it just happens. So when you do IOA, you actually prevent that.
So how do we ensure that we're all taking data the same?
Well, it also starts with our teaching procedures. Let's go with that. So if we do IOA correctly, whatever data that's going to show, and we're not going to dive into this today, but there are multiple ways to do IOA depending on the type of data that you're collecting. And each one of those have their own like math equation to calculate whether or not or how close you are to being exact, right? You take them all, divide them all by each other, and you end up with 80% IOA or 100%, whatever it is. So that's the basic level of math we're going to leave it at. But if you have any further questions, please reach out. But when we do IOA, it's a good chin check, I would say, for us as behavior analysts to be like, if they record it this way and they record it that way, then it's my fault. I have not been clear enough on something or somewhere where they've gone two different ways with it, and they both could be correct. Because it's their interpretation. We've left too much room for interpretation in the data. But we all know that we're supposed to write goals so that anybody that's walking along the street can come in and be able to copy be able to read, not copy, sorry, be able to read what it is that is written there and implement it exactly the same as we'd want it written and done by anybody else.
Yep.
That doesn't always happen.
I was humbled this week when I realized, I don't think I put in the goal, but it was in there long enough for it to be my problem. So I was humbled this week when a staff was like, so how do I run this? I'm like, just follow the teaching procedure. Then I looked at it, it was boo-boo. So I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. So yeah, it is definitely a good reminder of when maybe we've, skipped out on the details, because it's not always their fault. Our staff, when I say their, I mean our staff. It's not always their fault. Sometimes it's us, and it's our fault because we haven't.
Most times it's us. And
Yes.
that's not to say it's in a negative way either.
Yeah.
But we should assume responsibility because it's our kid, our case, our procedures. So like we should always assume responsibility. Now sometimes there are stuff that just shouldn't be with that kiddo or be
Or didn't
implementing
even
those
try to
programs.
read it.
Yeah, that's their fault. But then I would also argue that it's potentially our fault still because we didn't put an emphasis or show them how important it is through training to follow the steps.
Okay.
So, and then it's just like, yes, okay, one more thing that's my fault. I'll fix it. And now if you screw that up, it's definitely your fault.
Yep. There's so many things I can say, but I'm trying to stay on track.
It's okay.
Anyways.
But look, the other part to IOA too is that it helps to keep things consistent and accurate. If we keep it that simple, consistency, accuracy, those are two things that we're looking for in this field to produce meaningful change, and IOA will help you get it.
Amen.
As long as the people that are observing are doing it right.
Yep.
Right. And when you do IOA, I do think sometimes it's good not to be the one doing it. To have a third party that's not the BCBA with the start. Like, so if it was my kiddo that I'm working with and my team, me doing the IOA is maybe not as good as if I had you do the IOA because you are not invested in that kiddo.
Okay.
Right. So like you're a neutral
you're
third
saying,
party,
yeah,
so you can
don't
audit
come with
me.
bias is what you're saying. Yeah, that's fair. I get that. That would make sense. Because then I'm not looking for them to like, oh, they tried. Like,
And there's no like subtle prompting
Yeah.
on mistakes. I mean, we're human too, so we develop biases. We run things, make mistakes. We get up, we try again, we still make mistakes. Those things happen in our day-to-day lives, let alone in the field that we're working on. So I think it's only fair that if we have an external party to do the IOA, I think it's super helpful because then all you have to do is give them a written description of what the behavior is or skill that you're working on, and then let them do what it is that they're supposed to do.
Okay. Have you ever had a time where you did IOA or you started doing IOA because you were confused about data and it ended up being not good?
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I think for me, the one that comes to my head straight away is a kiddo that I had that had protesting behavior and they had tantrum behavior. But we had one, I think, maybe two staff that always put behavior in one that didn't fit with what anybody else was doing on the team. And we were kind of like, why is this happening so frequently on these days, but not the other days? And so, we did IOA and, figure out that. So it was kind of both faults, like mine and staff's in that aspect. One, the two staff were talking. So they just did things the same. So that was that problem. And the other one is that there was one topography that was in the behavior that I had removed from the progress report, but not in the data collection system. So there was one topography in there that I had it was just an oversight. I just missed taking it out, took it out everywhere else, even on the same page when it was under the goal.
Yeah.
But then went under the teaching procedure when they had it there again so that they could see it twice, it was still there. And so there was that. But everybody else on the team, all four other people, weren't having that. So seeing spikes on random days, it kind of caught my attention pretty quick. So wait, this doesn't work. And by pretty quick, I mean like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But it was like, wait.
Yeah. I had one that wasn't, it was a very simple goal. It was, let's see, what was it? I think it was patterns, like patterning or something like that. Just working on an attending kind of situation with one of my kids. And one of the staff approached me and was like, I'm pretty sure that it's mastered. I don't know why it's still open. So then I was like, let me look. So like, it literally is like this, boop, 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 boop. And so I finally figured out that, yeah, I mean, in that situation, maybe could have added more details, but what I had found out was that there was no varying of materials. So it was like when other staff would run patterning with things other than the materials that they were used to, then he was like thrown. And I was like, seriously, patterning? So, anyways, IOA is important because it could be such a little problem.
Yeah.
And it will like bring it to your attention, like you're saying, real quick.
It does. But even in the situation of that too, it's if it's written and it's a vary materials, but you have a sample set, like it goes both ways on that one.
And that's where I'm like, yeah, maybe I didn't add in very materials. I just, yeah. I think too that's like the danger sometimes that we kind of put ourselves in, is like assuming that staff just like understand that to get to generalization you do need to vary materials. And so like, yeah, again, even this can be a reminder of like, oh, I didn't put enough details in. So anyways,
yeah, no, 100%. It speaks to the consistency, right, and being able to make sure that everyone stays on the same page. And IOA will always do that, but sometimes you do have staff members that honestly just don't know what they're recording.
or don't care.
That too.
Like I need to put, like, cause which is interesting because if we notice that, like at where we work, if we notice that something hasn't been ran in a while, then we'll be like, okay, why hasn't this been ran in a while? But we're not the type of clinic where it's like, you have to run all these goals today. Like, you know? So it is interesting to me sometimes when I've had to be like, so, like okay, shameless plug, Motivity, right? What's cool about Motivity is that we can see the data as it's being put in. So now it's funny because I'll be in the clinic and I'll be observing a session, and I'm like, I just saw you put in something that don't make no sense to what we working on. So, anyways,
Yeah.
tangent.
Well, no, yes, but not really. Shout out to Motivity though, because that's probably been the favorite platform that I've used.
Yeah.
And speaking just for myself, I would assume probably you too. But
Oh yeah, it's game changer.
yeah, just like the things that they got going on, and the way that we can see data as being input, make changes immediately. There's no like downtime, wait time, refresh the page. Haven't lost any data
You don't
yet.
have to wait till you're done with your session so I can see what it looked like.
Yeah, so all those sorts of things, super helpful. I think that was like the highlight of last year, switching and then being able to see all these changes and have the flexibility to be able to do things, but really did help with consistency and making sure things are together. So props to them for being able to make a platform for that. So I think that's awesome. But yeah, to your point, it helps. Helps being able to see that, because even when you're not setting up to do specifically IOA, just the fact that we can see what data is being put in at what time and for what goal is huge, because that some things don't look right. I was like, I just saw you run 7 trials of this, but you recorded 2. What are we going to do with the rest of them? Because that's going to skew the data if you just leave it at 2 and they were all correct, because the other 5 were not. That's a little backwards. Like, well, they were trying so hard. That's not the field we're in.
Nope.
We are in the field. They're trying so hard. Let's give them praise for it.
Yes.
But we're not in the field
Don't
of
skew the data.
let's just not record things because they put in good effort.
Right.
Like, we still got to record it.
Right.
We're a science. At the end of the day, science prevails. We need to make sure that we've got what we need to be able to move them forward. Otherwise, we do that prematurely. We're going to have kiddos that are seemingly able to do things that they might not be able to because we left potholes in their programming.
So, shifting a little bit, how are we able to / do we use IOA while parenting or in our relationship?
Absolutely.
Okay, that was aggressive.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's 2 of us, so we can't help but not.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this, child of ours did this with me.
Yeah.
Have you been seeing that? Yeah. Well, what do you do? Like getting us on the same page.
Yeah.
Um, IOA speaks to being inconsistent and being able to be on the same page all of the time. So
I feel like it's tricky though when it comes to like marriage because you gotta be careful with this one. Like, I feel like other than like
am I this one?
no,
Oh, okay.
no. Like with marriage, like how not to do IOA would be like going to your friends and being like, "Did you see how he did that?" Or "Did you see how she did that?" More so, getting like a therapist is where I was going. Like there's healthy ways. I
Well,
feel like to utilize IOA in a marriage. I feel like there's also very unhealthy ways. Is what I'm trying to say.
got it. But if you go to your friends, you're looking for a cosign, not a solution.
But that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm like, that's not necessarily IOA. That's not really like
No,
gonna help.
that's biased.
Yeah.
It's a biased one. Um, but it also, but IOA is also important though because our definitions can be different,
Mm-hmm.
and our expectations can be different. So even amongst ourselves, without outside help, we can come to those general understandings and make our own expectations
Okay.
that raise. So like as an example, like what a clean room like looks like
Mm-hmm.
could be different for each one of us.
Mm-hmm.
But if we have a conversation about it and we go through like some sort of IOA process, we could determine where we have to shift our expectations or
Mm-hmm.
topographies or whatever that is
Mm-hmm.
to what constitutes being clean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
Right. So like
Yeah.
it's not, I mean, and I don't mean that in any negative way, or by no means am I doing jabs at myself or at you, just saying that was the first one that came to my head. Same with cooking. You could do that too. Like, what's enough food? How much do we need? Are we on the same page with this? IOA, we could do it when we look at budgets for a month. If we were looking at where we're spending money as a family, right? It's like, well, is this need, want, or just like impulse, right? And things like that. And so then you can, when sitting there together and looking at it, we can go back and be like, okay, the data says we spent money at this coffee shop and this coffee shop, 2 in the same day. Okay,
I
like
feel like that was a direct jab to me because he is allergic to caffeine.
yeah, but you always tell me that they got cookies and stuff, so it's the same.
Okay. So yeah, we do use it.
Yeah, but I had to relate to the people. Just because I didn't drink coffee doesn't mean that everybody else over here doesn't.
Yeah, okay.
And then you took it as you see.
That's okay. Anyways, IOA is important, I feel like, in every space, really. Because, yeah, I think a lot of now, I feel like a lot of the times in, like, society, things aren't actually, like, looked at. Like, the details are not looked at, like, multiple sources being cited, like, things like that. I feel like people are just like, I saw this, and then run with it.
Yeah.
And that's dangerous. So, anyways, wish it was used more in like everyday life with everyone.
Well, that just speaks to us shifting to a instant gratification model where we don't want to spend the time doing the research.
Yeah, for sure. Agreed. But anyway, so it is important and it will always be important, especially in our field. And it's something that anyone can do. So I feel like if you haven't ever done this, it'd be really cool to try to do this. If you are in a position to be able to, like, if you see your BCBA, hey, can we do some IOA? Make sure that I'm collecting this data correct. Or if it's in the clinic setting, right? Like maybe you're doing a social group and it's cool because you get to kind of, work with if you're allowed to. But like, if it's a group of RBTs and a group of kids, like maybe shifting on like who they're doing data for or something like that would just be like a good thing to bring into the space as well. Like, am I collecting this the same way that everyone else is collecting this? So anyways, things to think about bringing up to your BCBA. Because I don't think that I really, and this is not to knock my training, but I don't think I really remember when I started, not where I'm at now, but when I started, I don't ever remember doing any IOA. And so there are times where I think back and I'm like, I think I did that very wrong. So it is something that even if your BCBA doesn't present it to you, it is a great thing to try to ask them to do with you so that you can ensure that it's going the right way. Especially if like you don't see your BCBA very often, maybe, you know, making a point to be like, hey, can we at least do this for like 10 minutes, you know? It'll just brush up your own clinical skills, make them better and stronger. So
it's true. I mean, IOA also doesn't take that long.
it does not.
So, I mean, granted, it depends on what type of goals or behaviors it is that you're tracking. So in that case, it could take a while. But ideally, if it's something specific that you want IOA on, it doesn't necessarily take that long.
Yep. So
which is kind of cool, which makes it kind of easy.
Just do it like Nike.
Yeah. Okay. So one final question on this topic before we move on to closing this one out. Why do you think BCBAs and clinicians don't do IOA as often as they should?
Why don't they do IOA? I feel like that's like, it depends on where you're at.
Okay.
I think some places maybe they really don't have the time because they have too many clients. And so they're just spending the time, you know, putting in updates and checking what they need to check. And then boom, that's it.
Time is a big one for sure.
I think that's probably the one that I think of first and probably the most reoccurring issue. Why else? I don't know. What do you think?
I think time's a big one. I do feel like some of the BCBAs that might be doing like telehealth only might have a hard time navigating doing it.
Oh, that's true. You might not be able to see the whole picture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that might be difficult, especially, I mean, not necessarily, and I'm not speaking about those that are like having one-to-one sessions through telehealth and supervised through telehealth. I'm talking about the telehealth to in-person supervision. That might be difficult. Because they might be out of the frame for a little bit, so you might miss some points. There's just kind of a lot that goes there, but I think that might be.
Close the computer screen and you miss the whole 10 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. And so you got to break your IOA, and then you get punished so many times for doing it. You get discouraged from doing it. You stop doing it and start avoiding it because it's never going to work out, right? And that's just the nature of reinforcement and punishment. So that's kind of where I could see that too.
Yeah.
But I think we should also, as a field, look to try and change that, the perspective of IOA. You know, it highlights us maintaining a high ethical standard. I think that's important.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think accountability too. Like, you know,
we're doing what we said we were going to do, and this is how we're doing it, and we're making sure we're making those milestones that we're suggesting.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Oh, of course. That's why we're the BAes.
Sorry, guys.
Wow. Is that water?
Anyways.
Just kidding.
Well, thank you guys for joining us. We hope to see you again soon. We hope you have a great weekend, whatever day it is that you blessed us with listening to this episode. If you have any questions, contact us via Instagram, TikTok, email, all of the above and in between. We love you guys.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in. She's like, I'm done. I'm done. I got to get out of here. I'm dying. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you on the next one.
Bye.